everybody, and welcome to the Coach Paul Tortorella Show. We talk IUP Crimson Hawk football. This is Jack Benedict with you. And what a game it was, and what a day. Well, it always happens that way, weather-wise, when you're at Edinboro, but a hard-fought victory, and the winning streak continues. And, of course, now going into the final game of the regular season. And, you know, Coach, when you take a look at these teams before the game, and you see two teams that are averaging in the mid-30s, high-powered offenses, this and that, but weather situations at Edinboro can change everything, and it did. And you could kind of get the feel early in the game that this might be a defensive struggle, and boy, thank goodness for your defense.
Well, you know, going up there, especially late in the year, you got to plan for weather like we had, and that usually means running the ball, struggling to throw it with the wind, and you know all the different conditions. So we had a feeling that it would come down to, you know, a lot less of a scoring game than most people would have thought, strictly because of the weather, and you know, both defenses played well, obviously, too.
It's interesting how the game started and finished the same way, with a deflection and an interception, and fortunately the finish line was to IUP's advantage.
Yeah, we played pretty well defensively. You know, Fletcher ended up with 185 yards, but he got 30 yards at the end of the half that were just gift yards because we were just trying to get out of there and get in at halftime. They ran a little trick play, but as long as they didn't score the touchdown, it didn't bother us. So he really had about 150 yards on 35 carries. So we did a good enough job to win the game, stopping him, and then we had 3 interceptions in the pass game, and really only gave up 2 or 3 passes that hurt us. So you know, we held him 250 yards. If you take away that last run at the end of the half, and 6 points, so you think you're going to come out with a win.
Yeah, maybe since you mentioned that, let's go back to that last muddle huddle or whatever that situation was. And I know you came out on the field. There was a flag. There were flags, so you can't end on a defensive call and that sort of thing. Explain what your end of what were you trying to explain to the officials there?
Well, what happened was that after the play, they had a guy come block our guy, and Tillman, you know, hit the guy, and he was kind of protecting himself, but it was after the play, and it was a penalty. Well, as the play was going on, because the play was still going on before that even happened, they had guys running off their sideline, getting ready to go to their locker room, and they have to cross the field. So they were on the field while the play was still going on. I'm sure on their sideline, the guys that were down the far end had no idea they were running this muddle huddle trick play, thought they were taking a knee and were just getting ready to go to you know, maybe they were cold, because everybody was, go get warm. So the play's going down, you know, it isn't finished, and I look out to see if he does cut it back across the field towards their sideline to make sure we have guys over there, and I look and I see their guys running off the sideline to go to the locker room. So I was trying to just get a penalty on them to offset it. They weren't buying, obviously, but the good thing was there were 3 scenarios with the penalty. One, they would have had another play, but it was after the play was over, so they didn't, because they would have had the ball on about our 40 and would have thrown the ball in the end zone, and, you know, last play type deal. The second scenario would have been we'd had to kick off to start the second half and kick off from our 20, but we were actually receiving in the second half. So the best case scenario is they would kick off from the 50. So we were worried about, you know, an onside kick, a trick kick, a bloop kick, or they usually just kick it out of the end zone when you're kicking from the 50. Well, they kicked the ball on one hop right to our returner, and after, you know, it looked on the field like we could have broke it up the middle for a touchdown. Well, then when you look at the film, we had 2 blockers for one guy, and if one of the 2 would have just gotten the guy's way, it probably would have been a 95-yard return right up the middle of the field for a touchdown. So that was a crazy thing there that carried over into the second half, and then the real transition that hurt us is when we dropped the 3rd down pass, and then we screwed up we dropped the snap on the punt team. That went from being 1st and 10 on Edinboro's 30 with a 6-0 lead to Edinboro getting the ball on our 38-yard line. They went down and scored, changed the momentum. Luckily, they missed the extra point, so it was still tied. But, you know, we had the game under control. If we dropped 3 or 4 passes, and 3 of them were on 3rd down. They would have been 3rd down conversions, and we got stopped twice on 3rd and short. So really, I think we weren't very good, obviously. We were 4 for 16 on 3rd down, but if we don't drop a couple of the passes and we make the 3rd and 1s, we're easily 8 or 9 for 16. So that's where we really hurt ourselves on offense. We didn't play great on offense, but we killed ourselves on third down.
Yeah, in fact, that's what you told us at halftime. Dylan Sarka gets a couple of field goals at 6-0. You came out, you got a pooch kick. Almost, Geisinger almost, that was planned, wasn't it?
Yeah, we saw where they were a little bit vulnerable to it, how they set their kickoff return team up. And we had been working it for a couple weeks with Bowling and Geisinger, and they'd been doing a great job in practice, timing it up. And the main thing we tell Bowling is at least make sure the ball is in the field to play. If you can get some air underneath it, it helps. He kicked a little bit more of a line drive, but he kept it in the field to play. And Geisinger was there, and it was a tough catch, but he could have made it. And, it went off his fingertips and went out of bounds.
Yeah.
We didn't have a problem taking that chance because we thought we had a good chance to get it. And if we didn't get it, our defense was playing pretty well, so we weren't worried about giving up the field position. It was worth the risk.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the defense, when you take a look, because Edinboro had so many takeaways on the year. We were talking about, we were talking about their interceptions, their sacks, and everything else. But, you guys had, 3 sacks? 3 interceptions, maybe 4 sacks.
4 sacks and 3 interceptions.
So you did the job there, and it was different people.
Yeah, and they only created, they didn't even create the turnover. It was on the punt team where we fumbled the snap. So their defense really didn't create any turnovers. We got 3 on our defense. We had 4 sacks. I think they had 3 sacks. 1 was on a protection bust. So we won the turnover battle that we talked about. Their defense was a big play defense, a lot of sacks, a lot of takeaways. They didn't get the takeaways. They got a couple sacks. They did a pretty good job selling out to stop our run. But what our Achilles heel was our failure on third down to make first downs. I mean, we dropped 3 passes that would have converted third downs. And the first drop was the touchdown after the first series in the corner of the end zone with JoJo. I mean, it couldn't be a better pass. I mean, it's right there. You got to make the catch. I mean, we had gotten the turnover on the first play with the interception, and we had 3rd and 8, I think, on their 20, and we had what we wanted, one-on-one coverage on the backside, press coverage with our guy taller than her guy, and, he just didn't catch it.
Yeah.
And then we missed the field goal. That was the first field goal that Sarka missed. It actually tipped the upright.
Hit the upright.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, when they missed the extra point,
they did the same. Theirs hit the upright too.
That changes things a lot.
Yeah. But the other 2 kicks Sarka made were actually farther kicks. He made a 39 and a 43-yarder that weren't on, not easy conditions kicking up there with the weather at all.
Terrible. I mean, just anything you could do positive. Well, you got what you needed. You got a time-consuming 78-yard drive, and then Justice Evans goes in. You got a big pass play. It was from Lenny to McNeil, wasn't it?
Yes, and then before that, Lenny had a run that he broke for about 15. We thought he got hit late, and he did get hit late. He
That's
got hit
the one on our side
3
of the
yards
field.
out of bounds, and they didn't call it. But we got a free play during that series where we got them to jump offside, so we had a run called. But they jumped offside, so once that happens, we go into a different mode. And we hit Dom on a glance route that got down to about the 1-yard line, and then we scored. But, that was a long drive, and even though we didn't play very well offensively, I think we won the time of possession by 7 minutes. That was another big thing that we had talked about because they had struggled on that end. We had struggled a little bit in the middle of the year, but the last 3 or 4 weeks we've gotten that thing squared away.
We've talked about this before, Tort, about beating a team like Edinboro that had a positive record, and now Shippensburg comes up. As expected, they won their game easily. They're 5-5. High-powered offense. Boy, do they want to pass the ball. Messina, the freshman quarterback. Tell us about him. It's an interesting story, and of course, that's a very familiar name from the baseball world.
Right, that's Mike Messina's son. He went to Lafayette and was there for a semester. For whatever reason, wanted to transfer. Brad Potts, a former linebacker for us, is the strength coach at Lafayette. So he contacts us, tells us about it. So over the holidays, we start to try to recruit Messina, as a transfer to come in the second semester. And he really didn't want anything to do with us, to be honest with you. He said, I'm going to Ship. We had talked to him about, this was before we even signed the 2 freshmen. So the only quarterback we had on our roster was Lenny Williams, who only had 1 year left.
Right.
So, we had mentioned that, and, very easily you could come in, and if you don't beat Lenny out, you'll probably be our starter for 3 years because we didn't have anybody else on the roster. And he just was set on going to Ship, which was fine. Wasn't interested, so we'll see him Saturday.
It's interesting how you put that, but yes, we'll see what happens. They are an offensive team. I mean, he'll throw what, you think 50 times maybe, if the weather conditions warrant?
Yeah. I mean, they're spreading it out. Probably their two best players, other than the quarterback, are wideouts. The freshman of the year in the East last year, Eubanks, and then they've got a transfer from Albany, Gonteric, that's a good receiver. So, when you look at it, when they hand the ball off, their three best players really aren't doing anything. So, I don't blame them. They throw it probably 75 to 80% of the time. They've had some 400-yard games. I think they have a 500-yard pass game, and that's where they're scoring a lot of their points, obviously.
Yeah. Okay, it's Senior Recognition Day. Maybe talk about your seniors collectively here.
Right.
You had a chance as an assistant
Sure.
to be with them, and now 2 years as the head coach.
Right, 2 years as assistant, 2 years as the head coach. This group is 40-8 their last 4 years. Out of those 8 losses, there's only one game that we really didn't have a chance to win, and that was the Cal playoff game when Lenny got hurt and didn't play. The other 7 losses were all within one score of either stopping the other team to win it or scoring to win it. Amazing. So this group, has really done a great job. I believe, talking with Matt Berglund, they're the 3rd best win percentage of any class in IUP history. The last 4 years, they have the best overall record of anybody in the whole PSAC, both on the East and West. So this group's done a lot. I'd like to see a lot of people come out Saturday from the community, the university, the administration, honor these guys, because they've put us back on the map. I mean, when you talk about a team for 4 years, these guys that have been playing for us, to go 40-8, and like I said, 7 of the 8 losses, we had chances to win those games. So this has been an unbelievable class. And a lot of them have been here the whole time. Lenny's transferred, but he was here 4 years. Sure. Miles Williamson's a 5-year guy. Mike Petropola played all 4 years. Easterling played all 4 years. Dylan Scott played all 4 years. Some of the guys didn't even redshirt. Joe Peterson played all 4 years. He didn't redshirt. So, I mean, we have 3 or 4 transfers in there. Coleman, I'll miss a couple guys, and Ricky Rogers. But most of them have been here for at least 4 years and played for us. Anthony Davis has played for us for 3 years. He was a transfer from Temple. So this group pretty much has put IUP back on the map football-wise, and they deserve the recognition here this Saturday.
Well, we know the bottom line to win.
Correct.
It's not a win and you're in. It's a win, and let's see what happens.
Well, I've gone on record the last 2 weeks and said, if there's 7 one-loss or better teams, then we don't deserve to get in. But I am not going to sit here and say that if somebody else has 2 losses, that they deserve to be in before us. I'm not going there. I think we can play with anybody in the region. I think that if you're going to take a 2-loss team, we're as good as anybody out there that'll have 2 losses if things go the way we hope they go this weekend.
Sure.
But there potentially is a chance that out of the top 11 teams in the region, 6 of them could have 2 losses by the end of this weekend. So, you look at Ashland last week. They went to Grand Valley. They lost on a last-second field goal. Grand Valley's in the top 10.
Yeah.
They went to Ferris earlier in the year, lost on a field goal. Ferris is ranked 2nd in the country. We got to win over Ashland at Ashland. And I think that should carry some weight, such as playing 11 games. You got 4 teams that only played 10 games. You got another team in the Northeast 10 that's only played 9 Division II games. So, when we talk about we feel like if we win out, we deserve it, people don't understand. You can take those things in the hand. You only play 10 games, that's 1 less chance to win.
Sure. Yeah.
You play only 9 Division II games, that's 2 less chances to win. Mm-hmm. The team that we went out and played, Ashland, they're 5-4, but I guarantee they're the best 5-4 team in America. They've lost to us by a field goal. They lost at Dominion by 1 score. They lost at Ferris by a field goal. And they lost to Grand Valley by a field goal at Grand Valley. So if there's a better 4-loss team in America, I don't know where they're at.
Yeah. Well, we know they're in Ashland, Ohio. Hey, Coach, good luck.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Let's wrap it up and let's see the seniors go out top notch.
Absolutely.
Okay. It's kickoff at noon on Saturday at Frank Signetti Field and George P. Miller Stadium. So for Coach Tortorella, this is Jack Benedict. We'll see you on Saturday with IUP football.